pray, buddy?
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Okay, let's do a little prayer before we begin. Thank you. Eternal Father, I offer you the body and the blood, soul and divinity of your dearly beloved Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, in atonement for our sins
and those of the whole world, for the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
Good job.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
And maybe three more.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
For the sake of the sorrowful passion.
Have mercy on us and the whole world.
Holy God, holy and mighty one, holy and immortal one, have mercy on us.
And on the whole world.
Holy God, holy and mighty one, holy and immortal one,
Have mercy on us and on the whole world. Holy God, holy and mighty one, holy and immortal one.
have mercy on us and on the whole world. Jesus, I trust you.
Jesus, I trust you. Thank you, Eugene.
Good job. Well, Eugene, before we get started tonight, how about you lead everybody in one Hail Mary, since Mary's so good to us and we love her a lot.
Yep, you got it. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Mary, help of Christians.
Pray for us. Well, Eugene, it's great to be here for Tabernacle Tuesdays.
Yep, we got a special program tonight, because you spent the day figuring out who we're going to talk about.
Yeah, but you've got to ask good questions, and what you know about this saint, you've got to tell us.
Who is it? Who is it?
The saint of tonight is Mama Margaret.
Oh, I know who she is. Mama Margaret is Don Bosco's mother.
That's right. So today, as we honor and talk about Mama Margaret and learn about Don Bosco's mother, we can also get close to Don Bosco and our Salesian spirit.
Oh, wait, there she is. Look, everybody, that's Don Bosco, and that's his mother, Mama Margaret. And I think they were walking or going on a picnic.
Well, that was actually a portrait of them coming to Turin when, after Don Bosco got his mother to help him at the oratory.
What else do we got here?
Well, actually, Eugene, look.
Oh, I know what that is.
Eugene, what is that house, that old farmhouse?
Father Steve, that's the house that Don Bosco grew up in. That's the house in Becchi, in Italy, where he's from, where Mama Margaret raised him.
Perfect. So now that we got our prop set, let's begin by talking about Mama Margaret.
Is she a big deal for the Salesians? I mean, Don Bosco was the man. His mother just had him.
Nuh-uh. She's a big deal for the Salesians. Because Eugene, not only did Mama Margaret have Don Bosco as her son, but she also accompanied him throughout his whole life to start his work for young people, and she's primarily responsible for a lot of the things in the Salesian spirit.
She is? For a simple woman who grew up on a farm?
Yes, a lot of, see, any guy, any person, it's the mother's influence that's a big part of who we are, whether we realize it or not, you know? And even if our mothers aren't perfect, like their spirit and their way of doing things really has a profound effect on us.
That's what happened to him, huh?
Yes. So that's why I think there's three big reasons why we want to talk about Mama Margaret tonight.
Well, what are they?
Well, number one is to thank God for our mothers and our good mothers. And mothers support their sons and daughters. And Mama Margaret stayed with Don Bosco, John Bosco, his whole life.
What? Is it Don or John?
You know that one already. His name is Giovanni or John Bosco, but after he was a priest in Italy is called Don. Like I'm called Father Steve. Well, if I was in Italy, I'd be called
Don Steve.
Right. So he was Father John in English, well, Father Bosco in English, but in Italian,
Don Bosco.
Right, you get it. So anyway, Eugene, mothers have a big influence on their children, and we celebrate mothers. And Mama Margaret had a big influence on the Salesian spirituality. And many of the things about reason and religion and kindness, you know, things that are important to the Salesians, Don Bosco first learned from his mother.
Right from childhood.
Exactly. And then finally, I think that it's important for us to realize that a lot of Salesian traditions come from Mama Margaret.
Like what?
Like the 3 Hail Marys that the Salesians ask you to say before you go to bed at night. That actually comes from Mama Margaret.
She did it with him?
Yeah. She did it with him when he was a little boy, and even when she came to the oratory, she kept it going. And things like the good night, which is the last little talk before you go to bed, or the good thought, comes from Mama Margaret.
Oh, she is important.
Exactly. Now, are you ready?
Wait. Before we start, you always talk about canonized saints, and you don't say Saint Margaret or Saint Mama Margaret. Is she an official? Is she canonized?
No, she's not canonized. The cause of canonization has been introduced, and I certainly hope, and I ask you all to pray that she be canonized one day. But If she's not, she's still a saint. Whether you're canonized officially or not, this woman was really, really special.
Okay, tell us, what was she like? Start when she was a kid.
All right, in her early life, Margaret Oceana was born in 1788 in northern Italy, in the area called Piedmont. That was that area of northern Italy.
That's up near the Alps, like almost going toward Austria.
Yes, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It's that northwest corner of Italy, just before the Alps lead you over into other parts of Europe. So that's where Margaret was born.
What was her maiden name?
Oceana. And she came from a little village in the foothills of the Alps called Capriglio. And she was the sixth child in a very big family that were farmers.
Like country people, working the farm.
Right, so here's Margaret, she's like the middle kid in a big family, and she has a good thing with cooking. She was pretty good at it.
So they put her in the kitchen.
Right, every kid did their chores. Every kid, they all had to work everything.
What did the family farm?
Hey, Eugene, get a load of this. A lot of the farming was grapes.
Grapes. Like for grape juice, I like that.
Yeah, even for grape soda. But guess what? Before they even had grape soda invented, they had wine. And in northern Italy, people were able to grow grapes and they were able to sell it and make wine.
So the family was rich.
No, very poor, believe me. You had the grapes, you sold them, and then somebody else made all the profit. But it was a way of going about it. So they sold wine, they sold grapes, and they also had grew corn and were subsistence farmers to keep things going.
She worked hard?
She worked hard. Margaret worked hard day and night in the family.
And then, of course, she had time for school.
Are you crazy? They didn't have school in 1788, 1798, 1800.
What?
No. Mama Margaret never knew how to read or write. She never knew. She never knew how to read or write. If you asked Mama Margaret to sign a name, she'd put an X.
Really?
Don't forget, you're so privileged nowadays. We're talking about 160 years ago, 200 years ago, am I right? 200 years ago, you didn't have that privilege of being able to go to school. So the dad was a hard-working guy.
Working his grapes.
And the dad got conscripted into the military because they kept on going back and forth between, that area was controlled by France.
Napoleon, probably.
Exactly. Napoleon kept coming over from France and controlling all of Italy and parts of Italy and then going back. And he was exiled, then he came back. And Austria.
So the area really was ruled by a lot of different people.
And Margaret lived in all that reality. Anyway, she did not receive an education, but she certainly learned how to pray.
She went to church?
You better believe it. The rosary every day, Mass on Sunday, really prayerful. And the Angelus.
Yeah, like what we say, the Angelus.
She said that 3 times a day. So basically, things are going good.
Any hobbies besides cooking?
Nah, no dance class, no band. I'm talking these people were in the countries. You know, they were working hard. And you had to take care of the little kids. That was a big part of it.
So, she became a teenager. And then what? I know she gets married.
Yeah, because I want to tell you this. The Oceanas lived on one section. And then, like 2 hills over, there was a little section called Becky.
Yeah, that's where the Bosco family was from.
Anyway, Francis Bosco was a young guy, and he married.
What? He married somebody else besides Mama Margaret?
Yeah, he married a woman. He married another woman named Martha. And they had one son, Anthony. And he was in his 20s. And Anthony was just like 3 or 4 years old.
What happened?
You know what happened? The woman died. His first wife died. So now they had to raise Anthony, his son, and his mother. the old granny. So, you know, he was stuck.
Too much for one guy to handle. That's when he went looking around the town for a wife.
Well, he already had seen Margaret Oceana, and how good she was, how holy she was, how hardworking she was. So he went right up to her father and said, look, I'm very interested in your daughter to be my wife now that I'm a widow, and I'm a widower, and I don't have a wife anymore. I really would like to take your daughter's hand in marriage.
He said yes.
He did, and so did she. I mean, she wasn't forced into it. She went along because she knew that he was a great guy.
So, they had kids.
Yes, they did. I think it was in 1813, they had a son named Joseph. So now there was Anthony, the stepson of Margaret, and then there was Joseph. And then the youngest son was born.
Oh, I know who that is. That was Giovanni Bosco.
That's right. John Bosco was born on August 16th, 1815. So there was 3 boys, and Grandma, and Daddy Francis, and Mama Margaret. All a happy family together.
Looks like a good story.
Then more tragedy struck. Francis died.
Oh, no. Leaving Margaret alone with 3 boys and an old lady?
Yep, that's what happened. And it was, little Johnny was only 2 years old at the time, but he still remembers the funeral. It was his earliest childhood memory. And he remembers that they put the body of his dad in the living room, like they did in the old days. And just before the burial, people from the neighborhood could come in and say a prayer.
What did John say?
He said to his mother, "How come Daddy isn't talking to me?" And his mother said, "Your daddy is dead."
What did he say then?
And then Mama Margaret, he started to cry, and then Mama Margaret said, "Listen, your father is dead. You have no father now. Your father is in heaven."
Oh, poor kid.
Anyway, Margaret went on after the funeral, and she was able to raise these 3 boys and the old grandmother and keep the farm going.
Really? How?
She got a couple of hired hands for the grapes during the season. One time, the tenant farmer who owned the land and wanted the money from them, she got behind in payment.
Uh-oh. Trouble.
Yeah, he sued her, and she won in court too. She was pretty tough, but it was a difficult time. But she was great. She was great.
What did she teach John?
Well, she said to John, listen, the first and most important thing is that you gotta love
God.
You gotta love God, right, Eugene? So she said, God watches over us always. And she had such a calmness and a serenity and a gentleness. She was very charitable. When people came and they asked for food, she gave it to them.
But they probably didn't even have enough for them.
That's right, they didn't, but she shared whatever she could. So she was filled with generosity. And most of all, like you said, she was filled with prayer. She taught her kids about God. She said, God sees you, God knows you, and God loves you. And God is taking care of us, John. He is always so good to us. In turn, we must be kind to one another.
Did they go to church?
Every Sunday, the boys all received their sacraments, First Confession, First Holy Communion, and as a matter of fact, in 1826, when John received his First Holy Communion, his mother said, I am convinced, John, that God has taken now possession of your heart. Now promise him that you will stay close to him all your life and close to the Eucharist, because it will help you to be good all your life. And guess what? That's why Don Bosco had such a love for the Eucharist. He was taught to him by his mother at a young age.
When the boys misbehaved, did she have to use a stick on them and punish them?
I mean, it was 3 boys in the house. Anthony was stepson, Joseph, John's older brother, and John. And there were 3 boys. You could imagine, it was worse than the Kimbarger boys. There was chaos in the house. So at times she threatened to use the stick, but she mostly used reason, religion, and kindness were the hallmarks of the Bosco family home.
I'd be worried about that oldest boy, Anthony. He was hurting. He lost his mother first, then his father died, now he has a stepmother.
Yeah, but she wasn't a wicked stepmother, she was a good stepmother.
But he still acted up from what I understand.
He did act up, and you're right. He punched John and Joseph. He refused to go to family prayers sometimes, and he used to get...
Like you.
Anyway, when John was coming back from town one time with his mother, John passed a priest who was coming in the opposite direction.
Ah.
And then little Johnny said, "Hi, Father, how are you?" And the priest didn't even look up from his book that he was reading as he was walking. He didn't say anything.
Oh. Did John get his feelings hurt?
Well, not really, but he did say, "Mama, that priest didn't even look up and say hi to me." And Mama Margaret covered for the priest and said, "Priests are very busy." And John said, "If I ever become a priest, I'll always have time for children." So that's when Mama Margaret got the idea that he was seriously thinking about becoming a priest.
Did he keep that idea up?
Yes, John had a dream when he was 9 years old, and you know about this dream. And in the dream there was wild boys and girls, and they were acting up. And they were fighting and spitting on each other and cursing, and he wanted to control them, but he couldn't. He tried to even use his fists.
He couldn't control them. Oh well.
Yeah, but then in the dream, Jesus appeared and said, "You have to work with these kids, because you can make them become good."
Did he work with him?
Well, this was a dream, okay? But he did. And in the dream, not only Jesus was there, Mary was there and said, "I promise to help you and guide you to do this work of helping kids. This is your mission."
When he woke up after that dream, did he tell it to everybody in his family?
He did. And Anthony, the stepbrother, said right away, "Don't worry about it. It's ridiculous. It's just a dumb dream."
What did Grandma say?
I think the grandmother said, if I remember correctly, "Don't pay attention to dreams."
What did Mama Margaret say?
And this is the key. And I think Mama Margaret said, "Maybe you'll become a priest one day." And that's when he put on a big smile and said, "I think I do want to become a priest."
Wow, so even at age 9, he had a feeling about it.
And that dream really helped confirm his life mission to be a priest and to work for the young, especially the poor, who needed extra help. So
then what? If he wants to be a priest, he better get to school. You didn't mention that he went to school yet.
he didn't. He was already 10 years old, no school. So at this point, Mama Margaret says there's a school 2 miles away. Why don't you start going?
So he starts going.
He had to walk over there, walk back every day. But he starts going to school for a couple of years when he's around 10 years old. And then more trouble.
Oh no, what?
Anthony never got to go to school. Now Anthony's like 17 or 18. And he's saying, "I don't think this kid should go to school. There's too much work to do around his house. And I prevent him from going to school."
But he wasn't his father.
But he's the older brother, he's the stepbrother, so he lays down the law. So now Margaret can't get John to go to school. He lasted for like a year or two, and now they're back in the same situation where Anthony says, "You're not going to school."
Why did he do that?
Well, Anthony said, "Hey, look, John, I'm big and strong, and, I never went to school. You don't need school to do farm work."
What did John say?
John said, "A donkey's big and strong too." All right, and he didn't go to school.
Anthony must have got mad.
He did. They chased each other around the house. It was a scene. And Margaret, finally to control the peace, said, John, listen. Anthony's a wild man. I tell you what, you are going to go to a neighbor's house for at least a year and a half, and work over at his farm. I have to have you away from Anthony."
Yeah, but that's not fair. John got kicked out of the house, and Anthony's the one with the bad attitude.
I know. This goes to show you what Margaret faced. It's not easy raising kids. And one of them is your stepson. So she had to tell John he had to go over to a neighbor. They were nice neighbors. They were called the Molier family. And they helped him out for probably almost 2 years. So then John finally comes back.
When John comes back, is Anthony finally gone?
You got it. Anthony's like 20 now. He goes and gets a wife, and so the coast is clear. John comes back, and John's like 15, and now he can really start studying, and he does study. He goes, the local priest gives him tutoring, and he gets his Latin going, and now he's ready for high school.
Did they have a high school in town?
No, like I said, these are farm people, so the nearest high schools, again, that's like 15, 20 miles away.
He couldn't walk it.
No, so now he goes as a boarder. So he lives in a restaurant under the stairs.
Really?
John Bosco lives in a restaurant under the stairs. Mama Margaret walks him all the way there on the first day that he goes. He lives in a restaurant under the stairs, and he promises the guy that he'll clean up each night at the restaurant and wash all the dishes, if he could stay there.
And then he goes to school during the day.
That's it. So he learns how to be tough, and he gets his high school education. And Mama Margaret's praying that it all works out, and believe it or not, he goes into the seminary after high school.
Finally, he's on his way to become Don Bosco.
Yeah, I'm excited for him too. He goes to the seminary, but you know, as he's going to the seminary, when he left for the seminary, Mama Margaret had another word with him.
What did she say this time?
She said, John, I really do believe that you have a vocation. You should do what God inspires you to do. Do not worry about me. Do not be concerned about me. On my behalf, if this is what God wants you to do, you go ahead and do it. You owe me nothing. Never forget that I was born poor and I want to die poor. I'm happy to be poor.
Why'd she say that?
Because some people thought that if your son became a priest, you'd get an upgrade, right? That's the way it worked in the old days for poor people.
Did she say anything else?
She said, John, if you're going to be a priest, do it right. Do not do this and then go and dishonor your vocation by living like a hypocrite.
Ooh, strong words. Either you're in or you're out. If you're going to do it right.
Yes. And that's an important thing. See, this is all coming from Mama Margaret. She's unbelievable. Now 4 years go by. It's Ordination Day.
What day?
June 5th, 1841. And Don Bosco becomes a priest. And you know that Mama Margaret was there and Joseph was there.
Was Anthony there?
I don't know. I'm not sure, I'll be honest with you. He's kind of off the scene a little bit. But they still were, John was still friends with him. Don't get me wrong. They settled up, you know. But anyway, back to the story. He became a priest. And as they were walking home after the ordination, Mama Margaret said some words to him again.
Strong words again?
Yeah, strong words again is what she says. She says, now you're a priest and you'll begin to celebrate Mass. Never forget that to begin to say Mass means that you'll begin to suffer. Do not become a rich and arrogant priest, John, or I will have nothing to do with you.
Ooh, pretty strong.
Right, she got that message through. Do not be a hypocrite. If you're going to do this, do it right. You see the influence that he had on her.
So what does John do?
John goes to Turin, he goes to the big city, he helps all the poor kids who are there from the Industrial Revolution. They don't have family, or their families are in the country. And so John is helping these poor kids. He's giving them food, he's giving them shelter, he's giving them an education, and he's working his tail off. He starts the oratory.
And from what I understand, it was not an easy first start. They didn't even have a permanent place.
They're wandering around. It's hard. So between 1841 and 1846, Don Bosco's busting his butt trying to keep things together for these kids, and he's getting little help from the local clergy who were jealous of him, and there was misunderstandings. He doesn't have enough money to do the work that he's doing, and he's getting very stressed out.
Oh, I hope he doesn't get sick.
How did you know? That's exactly what happened.
But he was only 5 years a priest. And you've been a priest like 28 years. And you're only sick in the head.
Yeah, I didn't get sick physically, but I did get sick in the head. You're right about that. But listen, he's 5 years a priest and he gets physically sick. So he has to go home in the summer of 1846. And where do you think he went to rest?
He went back to Becky. The old house with Mom and Margaret. And maybe Joseph was still there.
Yeah, Joseph was there. He had his own family. But Mama Margaret took care of him. She gave him soup. She helped him every day get stronger and stronger. So then in the fall, in November of 1846, it's time for him to go back to Turin to take care of his boys.
Okay, I guess they had a nice goodbye. Bye-bye, Mama Margaret. Oh, she went with him?
She did. He asked her. You're not going to believe it, but Don Bosco, he loved his mother so much, and he knew that he needed help. He asked her, please, 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 Mama, come with me to the oratory.
And she gave up that farmhouse?
She did. She gave up her farmhouse and said, I'll come with you and I'll help you with the boys. She said, son, you think it will please the Lord? Well, then I'm willing to make this sacrifice. And off to the big city she went, to the oratory, and she cooked, and she cleaned, and she sewed, and she did a garden, and she was the mother of all those poor boys.
And she took care of Don Bosco to make sure he didn't get sick again.
Right, because Don Bosco was crazy. He was always doing something. He wasn't taking care of himself. So it was beautiful.
I guess every home needs a mother.
That's it. Every home needs a mother. Of course, we have Mother Mary, but we need these beautiful holy women who are our mothers and our sisters to help us in this mission.
So that's them on their way to Turin.
Yeah, Don Bosco and Mama Margaret go. They walked all the way. When she saw the house that he was in, she was like, oh my gosh. And you have all these boys running around. It was crazy. But she rolled up her sleeves and began to work, even though the kids were rough.
What did they do?
Some kids fought, some kids cursed, and some kids actually, when he brought a few kids home and let them sleep there, they stole the sheets.
Oh.
She was very, very frustrated at times when she first got there because it looked like it was not going to go well. There even was a pandemic that broke out where people got sick.
Just like what we had over here.
And so she cut up some of her own dresses and her tablecloth. I think she cut up an altar cloth so they could go out and help the people who were sick with the cholera.
She made a lot of sacrifices, day in and day out. Must have also been tiring on her.
It was.
Did she almost give up?
Well, she hung in there for a long time. It was kids like Dominic Savio.
Yeah, the teenage saint.
That really were inspiring, and there were many good boys. But there was also some wise guys. But she just got tired at one point, and she said, John, I think I'll go back to the country house. I gave it my best shot.
What did he say?
He said, Mama, I need you. And then he pointed up to the cross. And he said, Mom, we can do this. You can do this. Jesus did a sacrifice for us. Please do a sacrifice for these kids.
So she stayed. Whew, Don Bosco was pushing.
I know he was, but he really wanted his mother to be part of his family. So she was an inspiration to everybody. And like I said, all the oratory was building, and Don Bosco was raising money and building churches and workshops and dormitories. He had day students, he had overnight students, he had all kinds of things going on. So thank God she was there to keep things rolling.
So, she lasted how long?
That's a good question. She lasted 10 years. She got there in 1846. In 1856, she was ill, and it was time for her to go.
How did she die?
It must have been pneumonia, the usual thing. Worn out, from a life of hard work. So there she is at, I think it was November 26th, 1856, when Don Bosco was at the bedside of his mother.
That's gotta be hard. Brother Steve, did you lose your mother yet?
No, not yet. My mama's getting old, and I think that day is going to come, and it's going to be tough. But it comes for everybody when we get a chance to go and meet the Lord based on our life.
She was probably ready. Mama Margaret, I mean. And your mother.
Yeah, I think my mom's ready too. But Mama Margaret was ready. So she says, look, she says, John, don't regret anything. I'm so glad I was here these years with you. And she says, Mary is your mother. So you have the Blessed Mother, and you're very close to her, and she'll always help you. And then her last words to her son were, John, do not seek riches or accolades, only the glory of God. Poverty must remain the basis of your work. God knows how much I've loved you. In heaven, I'll love you all the more.
Oh, I'm getting teary-eyed.
Well, me too. I mean, she died on November 26, 1856, and basically they had a mass the next day.
Don Bosco was sad.
He was. He went to the Church of the Consolata. He talked it over with the Blessed Mother and said, now you're my mother. Thank you for my mom. And for all of you guys who have lost your moms, you know it's really, really a tough moment in any person's life. Eugene, interesting, they buried her in the city cemetery.
So what's so interesting about that?
Well, it's funny because while Don Bosco was alive, they buried her in 1856. And then by 1876, Don Bosco went to visit the grave one day, and the city said, we just dug up all the graves. So, I'm sorry, but we put them all in a mass grave, so we can't identify anybody anymore.
Oh, so she didn't even get her own gravesite.
Right, she had it for a while there, and then they moved them all. So even if she was canonized, we won't be able to get her body because it's not available, you know, it was moved.
Well, is that the end of the story?
No, because I'm going to ask you questions now, quick. 2 or 3 questions, all right? What did you learn about Mama Margaret? And why did I tell this story?
Put me on the spot. Okay, I'll try. Number 1, mothers have a big influence on their children. Huge. And holy mothers can help produce holy sons like John. And everybody needs their mother to accompany them in life. And that's real special. So we thank God for holy mothers. And we thank God for Mama Margaret.
Okay, it's perfect. Anything else? Last thought.
Yeah, she had such a way of joy and Jesus and Mary that it became part of the Salesian spirit. And some of the things, the way she was, John picked them up. And now they're part of the Salesian life.
You got it, man. You nailed it. It's a home run. Done. Done. Any last words?
Thank God for Mama Margaret. Thank God for Don Bosco, my man. And everybody have a good night.
All right. Well, I know we're going to end it with the Hail Mary as usual. And we're going to do 3 of them. You ready?
Just like Mama Margaret.
Yes. And I'm going to ask Bill to lead the first part. I'll do the little intro that I like to do. Okay. Dear Mother Mary, ever Virgin,
help me to save my soul. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Dear Mother Mary, ever Virgin,
help me to save my soul. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Dear Mother Mary, ever Virgin,
Help me to save my soul. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus.
Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners now and at the hour of our death. Amen.
Amen.
Mary, help the Christians,
Pray for us.
and I'm going to say, Mama Margaret,
Pray for us.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Good night, everybody.